This week we are going to be harvesting our garlic, which is about 3 weeks earlier than normal from around here. We're going to be planting some stuff out in the garden, taking you on a garden tour. We're going to be getting one of our first really nice harvests from the garden. And this week I also have to take a break and take my daughter to her last major breast cancer surgery. So it's going to be a busy week, but let's get to it. I was really hoping to wait a little bit longer to harvest my garlic, but as you can see, a lot of the stems are starting to fall over, which is a clear indicator that they're ready to come out, as is the tops dying back. Normally I have another 3 weeks to go, but this year it has been oops, my rake fell over. It has been incredibly sunny and warm for spring. So I am just going to use my fork and work on getting these taken out. Okay, hopefully you can see this, but I've cleared the dirt away from the bulb a little bit, and this ground is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. But you want to get underneath the bulb and to kind of loosen the soil underneath it. So I'm just going to be careful and work my way around it. You just don't want to damage the garlic bulb. And if you do, you just need to eat it right away. It doesn't make for a good storage garlic. And never just yank garlic up out of the ground. So I've got this one up. And you can see it's just a nice head of garlic. Not super huge, but let's see how some of the other ones are looking. Now we haven't had any rain for quite some time, and the ground is pretty hard, but you're not supposed to water garlic towards the end of its life because you want it to start, you don't want it to rot, and you want it to start curing. So here is most of the garlic that I harvested. It is in a large crate and it's multiple layers thick. Most of them got fairly good sized, if you can see this one. And I already have started, I just have like one of those plastic shelving units, but it has the aeration holes in it, and I'm just going to lay it out in a layer on this shelf, probably the top shelf up here, and then I will leave some in this crate. And I'm going to leave them here because they will be in a warm location but out of direct sunlight, and they'll be able to cure for several days until the necks of the garlic dry up, and then I can either braid these or cut them and store them. So I'm just going to grab handfuls, going to take them up here, and I'm just going to kind of spread them out. There is enough airflow right here where having leaves on top of the other ones isn't going to hurt anything. We've had so much wind lately that it's very good at drying stuff out. So I will just show you once I get these put up here and the others spread out in my crate what they'll look like. Okay, I've got garlic up on the top rack. I have it down here on the middle rack, and then I also have it down here in this crate, and you can see the crate has air holes on the sides as well as air holes on the bottom, so it's getting air circulation all around. So we're just going to let these lay here and cure, and then we'll have garlic all winter long. All right, good morning. It's yet another day. Actually, yesterday I spent the day driving 3 hours each direction to pick my daughter up from her major breast cancer surgery. All went well, and she's staying here with us for probably about a week to recover since she can't do stairs. But if you can see behind me, the 3 rows that I have of corn, I have succession planted 3 different successions in here, and I'm going to take you down to the end of the row and show you what I'm doing this morning. So as we walk down here, you can kind of see this right here. That's a row of weeds that when it was rototilled, for some reason the tiller got missed in that section, so I'm going to have to come through and weed that. But if you can see, the corn kind of stops. You can kind of see my rows of corn. Well, it stops about right here, and then at the rest of the row, they're pretty short, and my next succession of planting is going to be more corn than will fit in these rows. So I went ahead and I put some of my, I think they're called Musc de Provence gourds. They look like kind of a tan pumpkin. They're really pretty for decorations. But then I also decided I have one of my successions of sunflowers that I plant really close together so that the blue head sizes are a little bit smaller. And I'm going to go ahead and tuck those in the ends of each rows with the pumpkins because those grow well together. And as soon as we get those in the ground, then I think we are going to move on to planting the rest of my small gourds. And then I also have Speedia, the little yellow ball head flowers that I'm going to plant up near my greenhouse. And here I'm just pulling off the cotyledons that I don't need anymore. They're turning yellow. And I just want to pull those off because yellow kind of attracts insects, especially the bad insects, pests, thinking that the plant is maybe weak and struggling. And just want to keep as many of those off as possible so I don't attract anything I don't want in here. Okay, so I got the sunflowers tucked in over here, and then as well, I didn't quite have enough to go to the end of the row over here, but the next succession I'll just fill in there, and then I'll put in a few over here and work on our next succession. So in last week's video, I showed you again how I pinched the snapdragons and how bushy they get and put on long side stems. And this week I am going to finish up as well as doing it to the zinnias. I like, see how tall this one's getting? I'm going to come down here and I'm going to pinch it right there. And these side branches and then all the new ones that are going to come out are going to produce incredibly long stems. So it's kind of sad, I know, cutting off the blooms. Sometimes I take these cute little ones and I just go stick them in my windowsill in the kitchen and enjoy a cute little bouquet of flowers. But that's all I'm going to be doing is just pinching these out. Again, it'll just give you nice big side branches. And I do this because part of my business is selling cut flower bouquets. And even though most people chop their stems off of their bouquets quite a bit when they get them home, they still like to have the flexibility of the length. So I like to get as long as stems as possible in each one of my bouquets. Okay, so I have this little area up here by my greenhouse. In this little section in front of my purple lilac tree, I don't really have anything. And a lot of times I will put my perennial plants down in the field where we just did the corn and the sunflowers, but I really wanted to put some up here as well because it's just kind of fun to have flowers everywhere. So I'm going to get these tucked into this little section that you see right here. They're Crispidia. Some people call them drumstick flowers. Some people call them billy balls. They add some fun whimsy to bouquets. And I've just been slowly amending this section with leftover potting mix of maybe seeds that didn't germinate, as well as I just dumped a bunch of compost in here. But this was just bare, weedy ground, and I'm trying to take it back over. The problem is I have so many good ideas and so many things that I want to do, but I don't have the time to do them all. And then the maintenance on keeping them all tidy and clean and weed free, that's really hard too. So I just have an organic granular fertilizer. This is kind of what it looks like. And I'm just dumping a little bit of that down in each of the holes to give them a good start. I do have a soaker hose on this already. The ground underneath is still fairly damp. Okay, I got those all planted. I got some mulch around them and the soaker hose back next to them. I did get them watered in as well. I just hand watered because, again, I want to get the native dirt and potting mix that I already had in the ground sucked around the roots of the transplant to help avoid as much shock as possible. And then down here, I still have these 4 left, and I'm going to just tuck them in and out throughout here, as well as I have some bee balm that I think I'll be putting in here as well. Mentioned a little bit earlier that one of the things that I do is make flower bouquets, and this was just a really quick throw together. My daughter had a band concert last night, and she mentioned that she really wanted to have some flowers. I couldn't go because I had to stay home with my daughter that we just brought home from having surgery, so my husband took it with him to her concert. But I just kind of wanted to show you some of the flowers that I grow. We're going to be adding more varieties as they come throughout the season, and I will also do a video probably either exclusively showing some bouquets that I make or throwing that into one of my future videos. So if you're interested in that, make sure you're subscribed. Got my work clothes hung up on the line. This is like one of my favorite times of the year when I can just hang stuff out to dry. Let me know down in the comments, do you guys have a clothesline? Do you hang up your clothes? Or do you remember your mom or grandma hanging up your clothes? Both my mom and my grandma did. So I'm carrying on the tradition and I love it. Okay, so starting the garden tour, we are down in phase 1 that has all of the black weed mat on it. Again, these are my determinate tomatoes, so they will grow to their designated size, put on their fruit, and be done. So I'm missing 2 stakes. Oh, my granddogs are barking. I'm missing 2 stakes, but I will replace those here in a little while. This is the peppers. I'm going to see if I can get down so you can kind of see their size. They're working on it. This is the marigolds and some of my other flowers. These down here are my watermelons, and then my pole beans are down there. These are the zinnias that I snipped earlier in the video. And my snapdragons that are getting nice and bushy with lots of side branches. And then I have my flowers over here. And again, I've got my netting right here, but now that we're back from my daughter's surgery, I'm going to work on getting the posts in and getting the netting up on this row. So as we're coming down into the garden, just in this week's time, these gorgeous rose bushes are just bursting. They are going to absolutely, completely fill out, and it'll almost just look like a massive pink. So I'm loving that. So the very first thing we are going to do on this garden tour, because I am so excited, is this. My sugar snap peas are ready. This is like the absolute favorite for me coming down here in the morning. So good. I'm going to come and pick a bunch of these. And then I love to make dill dip and just munch away. Okay, I got that all down so I could actually talk now. These are the yellow pear tomatoes with the dill in the background. They are all getting nice and fluffy and big. The tomatoes are starting to lean. I have some more tomato cages. I've got to get those down here. Probably this afternoon I'll do that. The English peas, just the regular English peas, they are starting to put on pods. So I will have those pretty soon. I wanted to get back in the back so I could show you. You see how the kohlrabi is starting to form down here? This is really fun. If you've never had kohlrabi before, it's kind of hard to describe. It doesn't have like a super potent flavor. I don't know, but they're crunchy. And to me, now everybody's different in their opinion, but like the crunchiness of a water chestnut, but kind of a more mild flavor. Kind of like I don't even know. If I described it, somebody else would say, no, that's not what it tastes like. But I really like to eat them just with dip, or even just chop some up and put them in salads. They're really good. Raspberries are doing great. I actually still have not gotten the netting on them. Again, kind of busy with my daughter, but these beautiful little raspberries. And then I was given some red vines as well, and so you can see I actually do have some red ones in here, but not very many. The golden raspberries really tend to be dominant. And then as we come over here, it's the blueberries. And remember I said I had lilies. I had some that were colored and some that are kind of look similar to stargazer lilies. But these are the orange ones. And you can see these are starting to just really bud out. Oh my goodness, when I'm telling you, when they open, the smell, if you like it, is glorious. Again, I have these 2 bushes of blueberries netted so that the birds don't steal them from me. My potato plants are starting to die back a little bit, so we will just let them do their thing. I do come in and clean up, like this bed right here. I came in and I started to clean up the yellow leaves that were underneath the plant, and I mostly do that just to prevent it from attracting aphids and other pests that I don't want in here. Again, my goji berries are doing fine. I'm just still sad that they're not going to bloom this year and do berries. We're looking forward to next year. Again, potatoes starting to die back. And then my carrots. There is a volunteer potato in here as well, but you can kind of see how tall the carrots are getting. And I just love how the greenery on them looks. It's so pretty. I just wish that, like, if you put them in with a flower bouquet, they would actually last, but I find that mine wilt. And then I tucked a little bit of butterhead lettuce down in this pot with these potatoes. Today is like 65 right now. It's supposed to get up into the 80s, and then we're going to reach up into the 90s. And of course, lettuce doesn't really like that, so we'll see how it does. Over here in the herb bed, I wanted to show you the blooms of the tricolored sage. If I don't trip over stuff. But they have these pretty purple blooms. The hummingbirds love them. And I did a video on harvesting, drying, and storing herbs. If you want to take a look at that, I'll link it below. But I was kind of explaining how I like to harvest herbs early in the spring when they're still young and tender, because they tend to go to flower so quickly. And then I love to just let them go to flower, because even like over here, this oregano, the bees absolutely are just coating the bloom heads when they bloom. And then back in the back there, that is chamomile. As you can see, I got these tomatoes staked. And if you watched one of my earlier weekly videos, if you remember how scraggly and pathetic my little marigold looked because they had gotten root bound because I couldn't get them in the ground when I wanted to. And I said they root on the stem, and if you bury them deep, they'll provide you with a bushy, gorgeous plant. This one's just getting started. It'll get much bushier, but you see just how healthy and pretty that is. Again, most of my onions snapped out of it, and even the ones that were really tiny and struggling, you can see kind of back there, they're starting to get some size to it. So I'm holding out hope for the rest of the summer. Again, this was another marigold that was absolutely puny and pathetic, and it's bushing out. These are my black Krim tomatoes. I've got these in the cages, except for the last one. I've got to do that one too. A volunteer potato. No matter how hard I try, let me know if you guys are the same. No matter how hard you try to dig all the potatoes out, it seems like you always miss the tiniest little tuber, and then you end up with volunteers. But those are the other side of the English peas. My poppies, and again, this bed is mostly flowers that I leave in here to attract the pollinators to the garden. And then I have a couple of tomatoes in there. Down here, trying not to crunch the gravel too much on you guys. More tomatoes that I need to stake. I believe these are black Krim as well. And then down here at the end, I have a dahlia that just lives in this raised bed every year. And then I have my blue squash. And again, my volunteer parsleys. This one is going to seed, so I'm going to get this pulled out of here. I don't need any more volunteers there. My pear tree. Again, it's still loaded. I do have some down on the ground. So as you can see, I did have some that fell off, but compared to what's on the tree, not very many. My Pixie Currants apple tree is still loaded, and I did again have quite a few fall off of this one. This one was absolutely just, I thought, oh my word, it's never going to be able to handle it. You can see all the little ones that didn't get pollinated properly are down on the ground, but as you can see, I'm going to have probably more than I even know what to do with these. And because they're so tiny, I would say they're about the size of average size of a plum. And I like to eat them just for snacking, but I also will use them for juicing. My girl's waiting for a snack. And then I just planted some cilantro in here. Unfortunately, with the heat that's coming, I'm not sure if I'll get much out of it before it decides to bolt. And then the second bed of oregano, which I think I'm probably going to take out because I just don't need this much. But it's going to go to flower. And then this morning, I need to harvest strawberries again. I'm going to see if I can zoom in on this one for you. It's a big one. You can see that in there. About as fast as I get them picked, my teenager eats them. So, but I think I'm going to have enough today between this bed and this bed. And I'm going to whip up like a yellow cake and just have strawberry shortcake. Finally, right? So these are my cauliflowers, and they are getting nice and big. These are the self-wrapping variety, so as the leaves get bigger, they will just wrap over on top of the cauliflower head so it doesn't turn yellow. Again, this is the second planting of, or the second area I planted the English peas, and I've got peas starting everywhere. And this side as well. This is my broccoli. It's doing well, although with this heat coming up, I'm not sure exactly how it's going to react. And then over here is the other tomatoes that I have. And if you look, that is probably the third hole from a mole that has decided he's just digging up everywhere under here. So frustrating. And I even have one of those deterrent sound makers. It doesn't work. And then my bee's friend, I have a little bumblebee doing his magic. So that is the tour for this week. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you next time.